interesting thing about God speaking to Moses here is this, is that when God speaks to Moses a thing, it's out of a fire. So Moses is looking at his notes. I saw this kind of a fire 25 years ago. But this is a different kind of a fire. The fire that Moses saw was not a petroleum fire. In that part of the world, when the ground gets so hot and it begins to expand, petroleum oil comes to the surface, and a spark from a dewdrop can cause a petroleum fire, emitting ozone effects of black smoke. So when Moses sees this fire that's a smokeless fire, it's not in his point of reference. Because no matter how long you've been with God, in God, being educated for God, there's always something you've never seen. Always a place you've never been. Always something you've never heard. So when Moses looks at this, he says, I've got to go and make notes on this. And when he comes to the place, this is when he has an encounter with God. And God says to him, Moses, I'm going to send Aaron, your first spokesperson. Aaron is going to be your support base. He raises up Miriam to be the praise and worship leader. When he delivers the children of Israel by a mighty hand, they are princes and elders, the scripture says, that he gathers, that he speaks to and ministers to. And they come together in a unified effort to bring them out of Pharaoh's mighty tyrant hand. When they get to Exodus chapter number 17, at Rephidim, at the battle with the Amalekites, Moses raises his hands, and his brother-in-law from Judah, married to Miriam, a Levite, is on the right-hand side. Aaron is on the left-hand side. The first time in the scripture Joshua is named. He's in the valley and he raises up a group of soldiers. So he has a support system. In chapter 18 of Exodus, Jethro comes to visit him. And Jethro says the next morning, where's Moses? And they say he's gone, he's counseling. When Moses comes in the evening, he's tired, and Jethro says, you need a leadership strategic plan. Captains of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. The scripture says Moses implements that. In chapter 30, he implements a structure of the Levitical order of service, the Aaronic order of priesthood service. So by the time we get to this scripture here, and Moses says, I am carrying these people alone, he wasn't carrying them alone. He had a support system in place. There were people that God had given him along his journey. But there comes a place in a strategic thinker's life. There comes a place in a person that God is transferring wealth to on this kind of a level where you don't need managers and helpers and support systems and people that can drive and show up on time. We need people that have the same capacity. In chapter number 13 and 14 of Numbers, following chapter 11, they were coming to receive the promised land. And it's impossible to get the promise of God without increased capacity. You cannot receive God's blessing without increased capacity. If I take that glass that looks like it can hold 300 milliliters of water, the minute it gets to 300 milliliters, that's it. It's full. It's pointless trying to pour all of Lake Michigan into 300 milliliters. But if I want Lake Michigan, I have to create a container that can receive the capacity of the lake. So it's not about having no one there. Moses was not saying there's nobody here. He was not saying I am frustrated. What Moses was saying is that I need an increased capacity of people that can see the way I see. People that can think the way I'm thinking. People that can go the distance the way I'm going.